Good evening and welcome to the Indiana Department of Transportation's Town Hall meeting for the fiscal year 2022 to 2026 Transportation Improvement Program, commonly called the STIP, and we will refer to it as the STIP throughout the meeting tonight. My name is Jay Mitchell. I'm the supervisor of Indiana Department of Transportation's Technical Planning Section, and tonight we are here for the purpose of providing an opportunity for the public to comment on our draft STIP, and also if there's questions about the STIP to enter those questions as well. Tonight's meeting will start with a presentation by Roy Nunnally. He is INDOT's Technical Planning and Planning Services Manager and is responsible for many of the activities regarding planning and STIP coordination and development at INDOT. Michael McNeil is our STIP coordinator. He is on the panel tonight to assist with answering questions. We also have April Leckie. She is INDOT's programming manager. She's responsible for our large programming database that feeds into the STIP and helps develop the STIP, and she plays a critical role in the development of the STIP itself. We have Jason Castile here, and he's with INDOT's transit section, and he's here to assist with answering questions about transit should they come up. Again, my name is Jay Mitchell. Our next step will be, I will be turning the floor over shortly to Maggie Lamar, who will introduce you to some of the interworkings of the internet here as far as our software goes, and sort of the rules of the meeting tonight, followed by Roy Nunnally with the presentation. During the presentation, we'll break occasionally for some surveys that will be interactive. And then at the end of the presentation, we will answer questions or take comments. Thank you very much for your time. I'm turning it over to Maggie at this point.
Or Jay, I am so sorry. To cover some quick ground rules with everyone. Thanks again for joining. Tonight's meeting is on the WebEx platform. So to ask questions, be kind and courteous and respectful of all the attendees and panelists. Questions of clarification are encouraged. If you want to follow up on anything that is presented or go back to any of the topics. However, disparaging or off-topic comments or questions will not be shared by our team, and participants may be asked to be removed from the meeting if they continue. You can use the online Q&A or phone to submit your questions or comments tonight. As Jay mentioned, we will have several opportunities to break in the presentation for you to ask those questions. To break out, the panelists will be able to answer your questions. If you called in this evening, just press *3 on your phone, and that will raise your hand and signal to the project team that you would like to be called on. We will call out the last few digits of your phone number and let you know that you are being unmuted to ask your question. And then, like Jay mentioned, we will be having several of these Q&A breaks in the meeting. Tonight's meeting is being recorded, though. If you need to step out or you want to review any of the information, they will be posted after tonight on INDOT's website, and we'll share later where that information can be found. Your microphone and your line, if you called in, is currently muted. This is to allow all the speakers to be heard this evening without any background noise. But again, if you raise your hand during the Q&A session and have a comment or question to ask, we will unmute you. You'll be able to see all of our panelists that Jay just introduced on the right hand of your screen. However, the other attendees are not visible for privacy reasons, but don't worry, you're not the only attendee on the call tonight. Again, if you're calling in, though, and you're not on a desktop platform or a mobile app, you just press *3 and you'll be able to ask your questions there. And before I transition to Roy, I want to mention we will be using menti.com to do some additional survey and engagement with the group here tonight. So to practice, I want to start out with kind of an easy question. If you go to menti.com, that's MENTI.com, and put in the code 9598009. You'll see the question, how do you identify yourself and your interests in the STIP? So there's a few survey options. You can click those questions and it'll pop up. And that way it lets us know not only who all is represented tonight on our call, as well as lets you test out that Menti function. Play around with it. This will also be the same code and link that open on a separate tab. We will have this information as well as the rules of engagement break that we have. So with that, I pass things off to Roy now to start the presentation on what is the STIP.
Thank you. It looked like there were some microphone issues, so things were kind of choppy coming in and out. So let me know if mine is doing the same. My name is Roy Nunnally, and I am going to be sharing this presentation with you. One thing I want to make sure that you are aware is that this is like our second series of the virtual public meetings. We had these series back in April of this year. And due to the comment and responses received, we had to make some critical changes to the document before we would submit it to Federal Highway. In such, we decided to delay the submittal six months from that day. We were supposed to, we submitted it actually in June of 2021, but the issues was preventing some of preventing us from potentially getting the document approved. So we did it for 6 months. So with that, I will start with what is the STIP. The STIP is the State Transportation Improvement Program. STIP, it is a federally required planning and construction document. INDOT's version of this is 5 years. However, Federal Highway is only recognizing the first 4 years of the document, so that 5th year is considered illustrative. The document lists all projects and project phases expected to be funded within the 5 years using federal funds, as well as state-funded project that is deemed regionally significant. And when we mean regionally significant, it may be a route that connects an airport or a convention center, something that is a hospital, something that has a lot of regional traffic. In those situations, regardless if it's state or federal funds, it has to be included in the STIP. Our STIP is based off of a fiscal year, and our fiscal year starts in July the 1st of each year. It ends June the 30th. So it is a program document that identifies the funding by fiscal year. It also includes it includes state and locally funded projects that use Federal Highway or FTA transit funds. It does include highway, passenger rail, freight, public transit, and bike and pedestrian, as well as projects within national parks. So why is the STIP important? The STIP is important because it is a federal requirement, but also the STIP is a staged multi-year statewide intermodal program of transportation projects. The STIP is coordinated with our with other plans, such as our statewide long-range transportation plan, metropolitan transportation plans, metropolitan transportation improvement plans, which are TIPs, tips by our MPO partners, which are the metropolitan planning organizations. The tip is very similar to the STIP, except for it focuses more on that region of that MPO planning area, and it may have more local projects. We coordinate this within various planning process between INDOT and those MPOs. It is developed in cooperation with the MPOs and our public transit providers, as well as our regional planning organizations within the state. One thing to remember is that the STIP must be compatible with the MPO's TIPs for their state metropolitan areas for federal and regionally significant state funding. So it has to match. That is a federal requirement. Projects that are in the STIP include transit, which is operational cost that using FTA funds, and vehicle purchases using federal funds. And vehicle purchases can be passenger rail cars, it can be paratransit vehicles, it also can be buses. It also covers new bridge or includes new bridges, bridge rehabs, and various maintenance activities such as inspections, bridge painting, debris removal, under bridges over waterways, so that the flow can improve. Can improve. It also includes small structures and culverts, which are basically large-sized pipes and pipelining type activities. Our STIP also include roadway improvement projects such as added travel lanes, reconstruction and resurfacing projects, operational improvements such as intersection improvements where we're adding turning lanes, to improve the intersection's performance, interchange modifications, modernized traffic signals. So when we're updating so that the signals talk with one another and can be controlled locally, and intelligent transportation systems. This plan also includes bike and pedestrian activities, whether that's trails, bike lanes, dedicated bike lanes, and other bike and pedestrian amenities, including crosswalks. It does include a number of safety improvements as well, where again we're looking at pedestrian amenities that improve safety, guardrails, railroad crossings, and also slide corrections. Slide corrections. And slide corrections is when you have, and it's a picture of it, kind of in the bottom of the slide, where you see it look like the mountain is just crumbling on top of the roadway. And it's usually when there's rocks that slide into the road or have the potential to do so, they can do some corrections for that. And I will turn it back over to, I believe, is Maggie.
Yes, thank you, Roy. And I apologize. I guess my microphone was cutting in and out. So, Roy, jump in if it starts doing that again. But we're going to kick things off with our Q&A session. We first have another Minty question. If you want to go to minty.com and type in the code 9598009, this will bring up the new Minty question, which asks, what area or project in the 2022 to 2026 STIP is most important to you? Roy mentioned some general project areas, but also if there's a specific project you noticed in the STIP, feel free to share those. And again, while we wait for you to put in responses, we ask that if you want to use the Q&A chat function or raise your hand if you called in. We would love to answer any questions that you have regarding the STIP or gather your comments. So feel free to use those during this time or throughout the rest of the presentation. we can give everyone just another minute if you're thinking of some questions. If you missed the instructions with my microphone breaking up in the beginning, again, I apologize for that. Here are how you can connect via the online WebEx, as well as if you called in and you need to raise or lower your hand. We'll give just a couple more seconds to put in those questions. Otherwise, again, we'll have about 2 more Q&A breaks that will stop and address any questions or comments during that time. Okay, well, Roy, I think it's good for me to pass it back to you if you want to go into how the STIP is developed.
Thanks, Maggie. So we always question how the STIP is developed. So our STIP is a 2-year cycle STIP document that is amended monthly. It typically takes, with an amendment, about 45 days. So we are considering maybe not doing monthly cadence, but maybe 6 per year, every other month, and maybe with the room for any emergency type of amendment. So, probably up to 9 per year. So that's something that we are looking at. Indiana has both a decentralized and centralized programming projects. We have projects that are submitted by our 6 INDOT districts and selected through a multi-agency-wide, statewide asset management process that is coordinating with our MPO and local agencies and transit coordinators. When we say that it is decentralized, so the 6 INDOT districts are responsible for the annual call for projects. And in doing such, they break out projects by type, and they also ensure that they prioritize those projects for their district area. And so it is an unconstrained prioritization. So once that occurs, the districts send these projects off to the 4 asset teams. So we have the bridge assets, we have the roadway assets, and when we're talking about the roadway assets, we're talking about pavement, rock sliding, addressing rock slides. We're talking about pavement reconstruction, those kind of activities. They also submit to the mobility asset teams, and this is where you get your bike and pedestrian type facilities, added travel lanes, intersection improvements, operation improvements, and an intelligent transportation system. There's also projects that are submit to the safety asset team, and the safety asset team can look at anything from pavement resurfacing, where maybe there's a surface issue where the surface becomes slick when it's rain or moist. So they do some type of friction treatment. Also, that goes within the asset team, maybe sidewalks, crosswalks, ramps, and other types of safety improvements. So once the district prioritizes their list for their areas unconstrained, it then goes into the 4 asset teams. The 4 asset teams are made up of district representatives, planners, finance individuals, project program. So a number of people participate at the asset team level, and their responsibility is to ensure that projects are prioritized for each of those asset groups are prioritized based on a statewide need. And then you see the little circle in the middle that says program management group. That is made up of higher level directors, and that includes folks from finance, folks from our technical services, and folks from our capital program. And they are responsible for ensuring that we are meeting the agency's goals and performance. for each of the assets. And also they are responsible for determining how much funds are going to be routed to each of the asset teams so that they can start constraining and prioritizing projects based on the funds available. Also, you know, the STIP is developed and coordinated with our stakeholders, and also public input is collected by some of our MPO and RPO and district partners at various points within the STIP development process. The STIP is approved by our federal partners, Federal Highway and FTA. This is another graphic of the STIP development activities. You'll notice that the dates are kind of different, like we say November through March. Typically, we start the process in November every other year, but because this is our second series and the decision to delay it, this actually started back in July, August, and we expect to have everything wrapped up by January of this year, or February of this year, or February of 2022. So we start off with a draft list of proposed projects, and we coordinate that with our MPO partners, looking at our STIP and our TIP. And so that goes back and forth. And then you see in the green that, you know, we're working on the STIP verbiage, looking at targets, you know, whether that's targets for congestion, bridge asset conditions, roadway asset conditions, and those and the sort. And then funding is also come into play, and so therefore the projects are being constrained. And when they're constrained, there's another round of coordination with our MPO partners. Once we get all that worked out and things look okay, then we basically publish a draft document online and start our 45-day comment period, which is where we're at right now. And then we'll have meetings, you know, public meetings. And then once all that wraps up, after the 45-day comment period is completed, we will start the process of taking care and addressing comments received, and also any revisions to the document. And from that point, we submit to Federal Highway and FTA the final draft document for their review, input, and approval. This kind of talks about how, you know, our STIP ties in with some of the other transportation planning documents that we do have. And so it starts off at the high level where we have our longer range transportation plan. And when we're talking longer range, we're talking 20, 25, 30 years of a planning horizon. And so whether it's a multimodal freight plan where we're looking at the different modes from truck freight, rail freight, aviation freight, or marine freight, they are identifying needs, corridors, policies, and projects within that plan. We also have our long-range transportation plan, and that plan is a policy-based plan. It's not a project-specific plan, but the plan looks at things such as technologies, needs, and other things. Demographic shifts, land use changes, and how that impacts future year needs on the system using sophisticated models. And so in that situation, we identify what the deficiencies are going to be. And that kind of starts where we start talking with the public about how we can address those needs. How will technology change and drivers' behaviors change? So that's what the long range plan does. But our funded plan is called the Next Level Indiana Plan. And that plan is sustainable 20-year fully funded plan that was developed by our governor, Eric Holcomb, in 2018. to start the funding of roads and bridge projects. This plan outlines about $60 billion in total investments in Indiana, as well as also Indiana's small cities, towns, and counties benefit from this as well, and they receive an additional $342 annually for local roads, by 2024. And so you see on the right, there's a kind of a map, and this is an interactive map. This is called the Next Level Roads map. If you want to see this map, basically you just go to a search engine and just type in Next Level Roads, and it will direct you to some information in this map. As we mentioned, this STIP only includes federally funded projects as well as some state-funded projects that are regionally significant. But this plan will include all additional projects as well. So it's a good resource to start to look into to find some of your project needs. And this one includes projects that are active or funded, as well as future projects and needs. And you can sort it and show information by type, whether it's local, a safety project, a bridge, or mobility and other projects. So you can toggle that on and off. You can hit either of the little nodes within the maps, and it will drill down and give you actual project information. So it's pretty neat. And again, just go to your search engine and type in Next Level Roads, Indiana, and it'll pop up. So that's the longer range. Then that kind of gets down to the mid-range, which is our transportation asset management plan. That basically looks at things from a 10-year perspective as far as roadway and bridge needs. And then we also have a strategic management plan, which kind of oversees the overall process and coordination within our agency. And we also consider equipment as well as human assets. So our staff, we got to make sure that we're invested in them as far as training and things of that nature. And then that all just kind of funnels into our 5-year construction plan, which we consider to be our STIP. So how can you get involved in the planning process? We encourage everyone to get involved in the process and discussions early, frequently, and strategically. But there's different avenues. So if you are in a major metropolitan area, likely you'll be covered with a metropolitan planning organization, or what we call MPO. MPOs are great. They have regular public meetings from their technical and policy board that discuss projects, policies, and future needs. And these meetings are open to the public. If there are comments received, those comments are documented and forwarded to the right entity, whether that's a local or transit provider or Indiana district offices. MPOs also participate in early coordination meetings that we typically have each year. We're trying to get those kicked off in May and July of each year, but we're behind this year. So these occur annually. MPOs also relay feedback to their district partners on comments, project needs, land use changes, transportation concerns, growth rates, local project coordination, and oftentimes they weigh in on the prioritizations of projects identified. MPOs have more local information on planning needs and are able to develop regional specific transportation plans that's incorporated into their TIP documents. And their TIP documents are also 5 years, by the way. If you're in a non-metropolitan area, we also have regional planning organizations, or RPOs. And also we send out notification of the STIP when we are making modifications or amendments, as well as major changes. And the notification comes in different ways, from media releases, social media, legal notices, listservs. If you're interested in getting on some of the listservs, for the INDOT STIP or our long-range transportation plan, we have a link down below. Also, you can review and comment on the draft STIP right now, because it's a completely new draft STIP, there's a 45-day comment period, and that occurs every 2 years. Again, typically in the March-April timeframe. But also when we have those monthly or bi-monthly amendments, those have a 7-day comment period. You can also participate in the process in public meetings. So this is our last virtual public meeting. We've had 4 that was scheduled starting Tuesday of this week. And so this one, we have Northern District representation. So if there's any project specific questions in those regions, we have someone that can help, try to get an answer to you. Again, these meetings are recorded and they will be available online tomorrow, as well as any materials, the recorded sessions, the presentation, all that will be available online. We are also partnering with our state, our local public libraries. We have about 236 across the state where we have provided flyers and notifications so they can post with the intent of people that may have limited access to high-speed Wi-Fi. They can go to their local libraries as well and access the PC and their Wi-Fi system and participate in these meetings or watch the recordings, the presentation slides, or review the document itself. Those documents and forms, we have forms that you can fill out for public comment, can be found at www.indot/3132.htm. Or you can just email your comments in. So just go to draftstip@indot.in.gov. And you can also mail in your comments to the INDOT STIP coordinator, Michael McNeil. And the address is 100 North Senate Avenue, in room N758 in Indianapolis, in our central office, Indiana 46204. As far as addressing some of the public comments that we receive, we have to, note that your voice matters. And comments received by INDOT via the STIP comment form on our website through these meetings. And also, we have an app called INDOT for You, or a link called INDOT for You. And that you can go to for any issues that you want to comment on, whether it's a project safety issue, large pothole, whatever the case may be. That is our centralized comments and application. And when you put in comments to there's individuals that are staffed 24 hours a day. They will process your comments, get them to the right person, whether that's in a district, even if it's local. They find a way to, that this is a local project. INDOT's, may not have jurisdiction, but here's, where to go and who to report this to. But very talented group. And links, any information is processed by this group. If it's a STIP comment, it is sent to our STIP coordinator and our planning staff. Comments and responses are documented and coordinated through our agency's communications division. Comments received within the 45-day comment period, comment and review period, will be processed, responded to, and included in the appendices of our final STIP document as a public record. Comments received is the same with our 7-day comment period when we're doing amendments monthly or bi-monthly. Those comments will also be processed, documented, and addressed, and included and revised in the STIP version appendices. And then I will turn it back over to Maggie.
Thanks, Roy. We're still waiting for a few questions. So if you have any questions, remember to put those in the chat, or you can press *3 if you called in to raise your hand. We do want to see who is all joining us today, what corners of the state. We know the northern region is who we have district representatives of, but it's open to the whole state. So if you go to menti.com and type in that same code, 9598009, you can input your zip code and we can kind of see where everyone's joining us. While we wait for questions to enter our chat, I did want to ask the panelists some of the frequently asked questions we have received. So both Roy and Jay have mentioned that the STIP covers 5 years, but that 5th year FHWA doesn't really include. So do either of you, Jay or Roy, want to go into why is that for the Indiana STIP?
This is Jay, and I will attempt to address that. So the question is, why does Indiana have that 5th year? Are you different? You're not required to do this. Are you an overachiever? What's going on here? And what's going on is this: we have a 5-year production plan, and the STIP only the 4 years of the STIP. If we just left it there, we would see 4 years of the production plan. And in the past, we had members of the public say, well, where's that 5th year? We'd like to see what's coming down the pike our way, and we don't know. And so we decided the easiest way, one of the best ways to do this, and the best platform would be to put this in the STIP itself as a 5th year. This is what we have currently programmed for the 5th year. Some of these projects may actually move forward should something drop out in one of the 4 active years. And why would that happen? Well, that could happen where you have a project that is going through its environmental phase and you run into some issues that you did not anticipate. And that could be things such as a leaking underground fuel tank, which does take a little more time to remediate should we find that, or archaeological artifacts should we run into those when we do some of our trenching and so forth, or any number of things of that nature. Sometimes utilities take a lot longer to move than what we had anticipated. So in those cases, the project may actually be rolled back a year or even 2 while those are resolved. And then that opens up a slot for something to move forward. And that can very well be from that 5th year. We want to be transparent, let the public know what's in the pipeline, what's coming down. So that's why we have that 5th year, somewhat unique throughout the states, and that we do produce that 5th year. Again, from Federal Highways perspective, it's just what they call illustrative and doesn't count until we make a change. If we do move something forward into the 4 years that Federal Highway recognizes, we actually have to do a STIP amendment to move that forward. And that's, we'd go through a public involvement process for that as well. I hope that answers that question.
Thanks, Jay. Well, we'll give just a few more seconds. Again, we will have one more Q&A section toward the end of the presentation. We do want to address any questions or comments you have live, but Roy, in the remainder of his presentation, will also remind people, as well as Jay, of how you can submit comments and questions after today's call. So again, drop them in the chat or raise your hand if you would like any comments or questions addressed during tonight's meeting. And with that, I will pass it back to you for the last section of your presentation.
Thanks, Maggie. So one of the things that we're going to talk about is, our partners throughout the state. And so, as we mentioned before, we have 6 district offices across the state, INDOT district offices across the state. Districts serves as our front line in terms of coordination with our stakeholders and local officials. So the district has a good handle of what's going on in their areas. And so when you're talking with a district representative, they're able to quickly access information and know what's going on. So they are key partners. The districts are responsible for short-term planning of projects. And I would also say some of the midterm as well for the 10-year assets of needs. But so the short-term planning and programming of projects, local coordination and project management, and actual construction activities occur at the district level. The districts are responsible for submitting projects and needs for the annual call, which usually is open between starting in July each year and ending in mid-January. And so this call for projects are all assets within their respective districts. The districts and the program managers will also work with the MPOs for TIP amendment activities. The districts also participate in the MPO's technical advisory committees and policy boards. And again, these meetings are open to the public. So if you are in the metropolitan area, they are a great avenue to submit comments as well as learn more about the transportation projects in your area, whether that's the INDOT project or a local project. They also participate in select public hearings and are active members of the asset management team. This slide is just basically, if you wanted to contact the district, your respective districts, here's the information. I know 7 items are shown. We have the central office district as well. So the address and link information, if you click on that, that will take you to our communications team directly for that that district. But also, again, we talked about the INDOT for you. We'll do the same as well. INDOT for you will go to our centralized communications team. And if it's a STIP or a district type project, they'll make sure that that information gets to those areas and that there is some type of response that occurs and that information is cataloged. Or, if you want to do it, you're not on a computer, you can do it through the phone with 1-855 INDOT, the number 4, then you, or 1-855-463-6848. Another critical external partner are our metropolitan planning organizations, and also MPOs. We have 14 MPOs across the state. MPOs are policy boards of organizations created and designed to carry out federally required metropolitan transportation planning processes. So the MPOs serve as a forum for the local governments. They provide short and long range plans. So they also have plans that go out 20-25 years. And then we talked about their TIP documents as well. And also, together with the INDOT district office, they serve as the primary sources of local input and fundamental in our cooperating with our partners, whether that's multimodal transportation planning and program implementation process. We also have, if you're in a rural area, but we also have 15 regional planning organizations across the state. And the regional or RPOs serve the transportation planning needs of small urban and rural areas of the state. And they too also perform eligible planning activities that support local communities. Their planning activities, are aimed at supporting INDOT's need as well. So they know their areas and are able to provide input when we have in regional meetings, submit any comments that they receive from their local stakeholders and what have you. So I appreciate you having the time and listen to this presentation. And I will turn it over to Maggie for the last survey, and then we'll have a closeout session and still be available to answer questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Roy, for that presentation. We want to hear from you what you thought about tonight's presentation. So using Menti one last time, you can rate how useful this information was for you. And if you did not find it as useful or you still have questions, we would love to hear from you. You can use that Q&A box or raise your hand, and we will make sure your comments and questions are addressed. So while we're still waiting for questions, I want to turn to the panel with another frequently asked question. Let's say there are projects in my district that I'm curious about. How can I find information about projects in the STIP? And if it's not in the STIP, where can I go for more information at INDOT?
That is a very good question. There's multiple sources if you wanted to find out more what's going on in your region. And again, we would suggest uh, if within the STIP is a good source, but also sometimes the STIP can be a little challenge to use. I think the easiest way to utilize the STIP is to essentially find out what county you are interested in knowing those projects, and then going within the STIP and finding that county and looking at all the projects. Another avenue is through, we talked about the Next Level Roads Indiana, and that will probably have more comprehensive projects that's ongoing. Again, the STIP the STIP doesn't have all projects in there, just only federally funded projects or regionally significant state funded projects. So you can also go to the Next Level Roads. Just go to your search engine, Next Level Roads Indiana, and you can go on our interactive map, and then you can do some queries. And also you can zoom into a county or area that you're interested in, and all those projects should pop up, including some future projects that may not be funded. So some needs that may be identified. I would also suggest checking if you're in a metropolitan planning organization. They are also a great resource, and many of our MPO partners have systems in place and interactive maps as well, and more information. So you just won't get just the INDOT state facilities projects, but you may get some of the local projects. So that's also a great start.
Great, thank you, Roy, for that detailed answer. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to add them to the chat and we will happily get those answered for you. Or if you want to leave your comments now, the instructions to do that are on the screen. And I will try to turn it to the panel and think if there's one reoccurring question you will receive, or any piece of clarifying information from today's presentation that you want to make sure attendees are touched on.
This is Jay. One question that did come up in an earlier meeting was, is the STIP amended? How is it amended and how often? Or do you have a schedule? The answer to that question is the STIP, we do amend the STIP currently on a monthly basis because we're a dynamic organization. Things change quickly, and we sometimes have to change projects by adding additional funds, or we find out that we may be going to bid and our estimates are lower than we anticipated. We'll change that as well. Again, I mentioned sometimes you run into problems as you're doing design and development, and some of the research is with regard to the environmental side of things, where a project may have to move. In those cases, an amendment will be proposed, and it's on a monthly basis currently, and then we will process that and make it happen by submitting that request to Federal Highway every month, and then we hope approve that, and then we make the change. And all of the amendments, every amendment that is ever made to the STIP is always cataloged. It's placed on our website so that those can be searched as well. And they're there. Also, some of the older STIPs are there if you wish to look at the older STIPs. I'm not sure why you would, but for historical purposes, perhaps you could do that as well. I did want to mention tonight, I would be remiss if I did not that we have representation here from our two northern districts, from the Northwest Indiana area, which is our LaPorte district. We have Jessica Miller here with us tonight, and from our Northeast district, which is the Fort Wayne district, we have got Angela Nicholson with us tonight to assist us should there be any questions that come up in those two districts. So I did want to point that out. We are open to questions or comments. If you think of a comment or a question later, or you didn't figure out how to put it in tonight and you still want to make that comment, you're welcome to do so. The best route would be to go to INDOT's website for its STIP, just in.gov/INDOT STIP rather, and you will find a interactive location, where a portal where you can submit your comments. Also, if that doesn't work for you, if your computer's not working, phone's not working quite right, you can always mail us a letter if you want to. That will get to us and we will respond. Any questions or comments that come in through that venue will be placed in the final STIP itself, along with the answer to those questions or comments. So I did want to point that out as well. In addition to that, Roy answered how you can find out information about INDOT and various projects in INDOT that may not necessarily be in the STIP because they might be more state-funded projects. If anyone ever has any questions about any aspect of INDOT, we have a one-shop location where you can submit your question, and that's online. It's called indot4u.com, and I think Roy mentioned it earlier. But you can submit your question there or comment, and you will get a response. And we have a whole team of experts that will track down the proper people at INDOT, wherever they may be residing in INDOT, to get those answers for you. And they have a timeline on that. So if you submit something within so many days, that will be responded to, or they'll have some explanation as to why it has not yet been responded to. I know some of those have come to me over time, and if you ignore them, they will contact you directly. So we don't do that. You get an answer fairly quickly. Some of our staff have actually tested the site too, and it works very well, very efficiently. So that's INDOT4U. If you want to telephone us, INDOT, we have a customer service line. That's 1-855-463-6848. 1-855-463-6848. And you can submit your comment or concern in that venue as well. So those are the options that are available to you. Again, we are seeking comments and questions regarding our current draft STIP. And if you have one tonight, we have plenty of time to answer those questions. If you give us a question about a project that we may not know about, because there are several projects in the STIP, well over 1,000, and different aspects of those projects. If we don't know right here tonight, our panel doesn't know, we will put it on the table, get the answer from the proper individual, and get that answer back to you. And not only that, we will put it in the record of the STIP itself. So I did want to point that out. So again, open for questions if there are any that come in, or comments. So we'll keep the line open for a little while. Maggie, do you have anything to add at this point?
I just want to add first a thank you to both you, Jay, and Roy for the presentation tonight, and that we have recorded this session and the other 3 public meetings that we had. So they will be posted online within the next couple of days.
And I will add that they will remain online, available to look at for quite some time, at least until the STIP is approved by the Federal Highway Administration and the Federal Transit Administration. And that will probably come, we anticipate, sometime in early February, maybe late February of 2022. And after that, we'll remove it from online, but it will be cataloged and stored by INDOT. So it can be requested at any time. Thank you. So we are nearing the end of our time slot tonight. Again, we still have an opportunity. If you have a question or comment, you can submit it. Be happy to take it, and we'll stick around to answer it as well, as long as it's not too complicated, perhaps. But yeah, submit your questions. Make them complicated if you wish, that's fine. And we hope that the information presented tonight was informative, that it was worth your while, that you perhaps learned a little bit more about INDOT and its processes than you may not have known earlier. And if you ever have questions or comments, you are welcome to contact us again at any time, 24 hours a day through INDOT for you. And the customer service line probably has at least recording devices late at night, so you still do that as well. So we're about a minute away from the end of our time slot tonight. Again, questions or comments? Or if you wish to raise your hand and make a comment, you may do that as well. If not, if you should think of something later, feel free to contact us. We'll be happy to answer your question or comment, or direct it to the right person who can answer your question or comment. And we would like to thank you very much for taking the time out of your day to attend this meeting this evening with us, to hear about projects that are listed in our fiscal year 2022 to 2026 Transportation Improvement Program. And that is our STIP. We will be submitting that shortly to Federal Highway for review and approval and Federal Transit Administration. And that's anticipated near the end of January, where that submittal will take place. Again, thank you very much for taking the time to attend the meeting. We value your time and your input. And please submit more input if you should come up with something, some question or comment. Thank you again.